travel to another world, another time, in the age of wonder. The Dark Crystal.
The Hardcast.
It's time for another fantastically prophetic episode of the Hardcast. I'm your host, Chris, and today I'm joined by Steven.
The man whose night is so Xeno.
And Victor.
Seriously classic.
Tonight's review/discussion is about the 1982 fantasy film The Dark Crystal, directed by Jim Henson and Frank Oz. Visual design by Brian Froud, written by Jim Henson and David Odell. During the great conjunction of the three suns, the crystal of truth was cracked. In that moment, it became the Dark Crystal. Soon afterwards, the evil vulture-like Skeksis seized power and instituted a reign of terror over their world. Only a Gelfling, spoken of from prophecy, can make the crystal whole again and restore the balance. So, Stephen, did the Dark Crystal transport you into another world full of wonder and awe, or did you feel like someone shoved a crystal shard into your crack?
I can't say someone shoved something up my crack. No, it was definitely I got transported to a different world with this movie. The one word I can tell everyone. The minute I think of Dark Crystal, I think of one word: detail. Attention to detail was astounding in this movie. You've got amazing environments. You've got the puppets themselves. They've got the
Muppets.
Facials. Muppets. Yeah, the Kermit guy was here, so all right, Muppets then.
The Kermit guy.
The Kermit guy. You've got the detail in the face, cracks, and from the Gelfling, I mean, from everyone, even the Skeksis.
The cracks?
The mystics themselves. Yeah, like the little rusts and stuff from the Skeksis especially. But the characters themselves...
Age lines, yeah.
Yes, those two. Anyone who loves attention to detail would appreciate this movie for what it is. It's definitely one of those fantasy movies you can just sit down and just be awed by an astounding performance. It was really well done. They mentioned right in the beginning that there's no humans in this movie at all. It's just completely raw fantasy, hardcore, all the way. What you think, Victor?
Like you said, this movie puts a lot of attention to details. You may be turned off by the fact that there are puppets, but you need to see it to believe it. So much work goes into it, especially... You realize how much work went into it after you see the special behind the scenes. They show the making of and everything they went through. I mean, they worked on this shit for years. They spent a single year just preparing to...
Yeah, they're just testing to make sure the puppets actually functioning, that they could do what they wanted them to do.
Yeah, so after watching that, you definitely appreciate the movie like a lot more. They put their own, oh my gosh.
their souls into it, definitely.
Right. They pour their heart and souls into it.
Well, one thing I liked that they mentioned was how a lot of times the person who designed the creature, well, I wouldn't say design because Brian Froud designed it, but like built the creature and then the Muppet and then made his skin and his clothing and like even sewed the buttons on him and everything was a lot of times the guy who was also performing, the one who actually did all this stuff. So it was very personal, all the way from the beginning to end, like from birth to all the way to the end. It's like this person was put his whole heart and soul, his creativity, craftsmanship, and everything into this just one Muppet, and that was his Muppet, and he made it his own. A lot of personality into it.
Yeah. It gave you a feeling of dedication. You built it. You wanted to succeed. You wanted to be one of the best characters, artistically and visually. On the cast itself, you can give these guys a round of applause. The credit for what they did is astounding.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, they introduce us to the Skeksis, and there are like these evil race of bird-like / reptile-ish creatures, and they're evil, dark. You see the way they're acting, the way they look, and you know that they're evil.
Well, one thing they mentioned was that they kind of subtly based them off the sins, the 7 sins.
Yeah,
Right.
And there's only 10 left. So they mentioned that some of the sins are either repeated or they made up new sins just for these guys.
They were creative. They did what they had.
And you can definitely tell. I mean, these 10 Skeksis, they worship the Dark Crystal, of course, minus the one shard that's missing, which just don't know where it's at the moment. And then they introduce us to the Mystics, which is these race of good creatures. They're like peaceful, gentle.
Wizards of the land.
Serene type creatures, right?
Yeah, and there's also 10 of them.
Hint, hint. That's a clue right there. 10 of them, 10 of the Mystics. All right.
Right. And both races are really old. They're dying. They need to do something quick. They're like both desperate.
They're in desperate need of healthcare.
Right.
Insurance won't cover it, man. It just won't cover it.
And the first thing that happens is, of course, the most ancient one out of the race, the one that's in charge, the leader, they died like from the Skeksis side and from the Mystics side.
Yeah, you got the Emperor and then you got the Master of the Mystics.
Yeah.
It's true. They both cracked. They couldn't keep up with the youngins, I guess.
And they both happen to know about this prophecy where basically a young gelfling creature is supposed to save their own race.
He'll either make the crystal whole again, and then there'll be balance back again on this world, or he won't make the crystal whole again, and the Skeksis will continue to rule, but will have complete dominion, and the whole world will be thrust into darkness, basically. So then evil will rule, basically.
Which is definitely not desired.
Nope.
They choose of the prophecy this random gelfling. Jen.
Well, it's not random. It's the only gelfling left.
Well, besides Kira, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, they don't know that yet.
Yes.
Yeah. Supposedly, yeah, he's supposed to be the last one. He's lived his whole life with this last of the mystic, of the one who died in front of him. He trained with him. He's always there teaching him different things, learning of the world, how to speak, and all that. When he gives him his final order, I should have told you this a long time ago, but you have to look for the missing shard of the dark crystal. You are the only one. You are the prophesized one. Only you can do it. It's your choice. The whole time, Jen's like, I don't know what you mean. Elaborate. I don't understand.
Plus, Jen's never been outside of the valley where the mystics live, so he has no experience with the outside world or what kind of creatures are out there.
So this humongous weight is put onto his shoulders all at once, and he's completely...
No pressure.
No pressure at all, right? Supposedly, he's the one to save everyone. I don't know. Is he the one, Victor? I don't know.
Could he really be the one?
Could he really be the one? Oh, man.
Muad'Dib.
No. No pressure, but yeah.
This movie is definitely Muad'Dib.
Yeah.
As confused as he was, he decides to take on the task. He knows what it looks like, so he has a rough idea of what he should be doing. You see him as he's starting to walk along. This is part of the detail type stuff where Jim Henson himself was showing you how they did the Muppet walks and like how realistic it had to be. You'd see Hilt on one side, Hilt on the left side, just to show you movement of legs. And you can't see Jen's legs as he's walking, but you see the movement as he's walking from environment to environment as he's making his journey. He really worked his ass off for this movie. Chris, you want to explain what the rocks and different plants...
Yeah, well, one thing I will mention right off the bat that I thought was very interesting was he had a rough idea of kind of what he was trying to achieve as far as the story goes. He really started with the world. He wanted to build it from the ground up. Everything from the rocks, the plants, the animals, even the map of the world, everything had to be created years in advance. They started making everything, the creatures that would inhabit this world, the relationships between like the habitats and what eats this and what does that. Even the three suns. On the Wikipedia page, they went into more detail about the three different suns and the different creatures. And I thought it was just interesting that the story grew from the foundation of them creating this world first. First thing that you really see in this movie is the world. All the animals and plants and things that live in the water, things that eat other things. And there was so much visual stimulus in this movie.
Because we know Chris likes stimulus.
Of course. I told you, man. This movie was such a huge influence on me.
It stimulated something.
My creative juices.
Most fantasies, the very few of them, they always mentioning characters first and then the world second. They play off the characters, emotions and thoughts of the world, and then it just goes from that. This movie was reverse and actually worked out kind of better, I think, that they created the world first and the characters inside the world.
It's a very rich world.
Definitely. I mean, they show like a full 2 minutes of no story, no progress or anything. They just show like a full 2 minutes of the different environments and creatures that inhabit this land. Right. And it was just amazing. I was blown away. I was blown out of the water.
Yes. I was just blown.
Oh my god. This movie, you'll appreciate that. And as he's walking, he meets one of the most interesting characters in this entire movie. Oh my god, the ugliest bitch you've ever seen, this Agra. Like, she's this funny old hag of a... Oh my god.
Sounds like your last girlfriend.
Tell me about it, man. Because this bitch was missing an eyeball, first of all.
And the one that she did have, she could take out and use... Like, put it anywhere and look at things.
Yes, she's very good at taking out her eyeballs. Gosh, she was decrepit and cracked face and hanging lips and...
Well, there was a lot more stuff that was hanging besides her lips.
Yes, definitely. She had this flair during the movie that you just... No matter how ugly she is, Jim Henson said it herself, the other character, how beautiful she was, just because she's so ugly that she was beautiful to the movie.
Yeah, wasn't it the guy that was controlling her? That
Frank Oz, who was the co-director, who everyone might know. He does Miss Piggy.
Yeah, he was going off on how beautiful she was.
It was. I could see some beauty, and definitely a different sort of beauty, but I can see it.
Again, it was attention to detail. She was one of the most detailed looking of the Muppets. There was a lot of stuff going on with her face and her body.
Her texture, everything.
She even had horns on the side of her head.
Yeah, I noticed that too. One horn is bigger than the other.
But
Yes.
I think one thing that was cool about her character.